Welcome back. We're going to pick up the conversation where we left off
I was just
last
staring
time.
at you. I was like, welcome back. Oh, yeah. Hey.
Hey.
Welcome back.
We're Ashley and Angie, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm Angie.
I'm Ashley.
We never do tell anybody.
We don't.
Who we
We're
are.
just chatting. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just like to hang out.
Giving
and
you
chat,
random
but-
access
Yes.
to our moments.
Completely random access.
Yeah.
And today we're just keeping the camera rolling. So if you've watched the last two videos, you'll notice we look a lot. We should switch chairs or something.
We
just
should.
So,
You can put a coat on or something like that.
there you go. I brought my sweater. I did think about that, but then I got kind of warm.
It's fine. You all don't care, do you?
You don't care. You'll be fine.
You'll be fine.
We'll be fine. You'll
Everybody will be fine. It's
This
fine.
conversation's giving me more energy too.
It
by
is,
the way.
absolutely.
It's waking me back up.
So, and that's something that we talked about a couple segments ago was like what to do on those days where you're just exhausted and, you know, like applying a ranking. But I have to remind myself that on those days, I need to like talk to somebody. Like I need to do something. I need to like get up and move. I need to have a conversation that's energizing because part of what depletes me is sitting at a desk.
And I think that's what was getting me too.
Yeah.
Like I felt fine until I got
Yeah.
to work and was just staring at things and starting to feel the overwhelm a little bit.
Yeah.
And I needed to get up and move around more, but
And drink some water.
yeah.
That's a good
I've
reminder too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, you know, I've been drinking water all day because I'm so dried out. But anyway, so to pick up on the other conversation.
Yeah, last one.
This is why we have to keep the camera rolling
Mm-hmm.
because we every conversation leads to the next. And last month when we were taping some stuff, we didn't turn the camera on for like an hour and a half, and we had at least three good
At
solid
least three.
episodes
Yeah.
that we could have shared
Mhm.
with you guys. We kept saying, "Oh, it's too bad the camera's not rolling."
So we just started it and here we are.
Yeah. So at the risk of starting a storm, the theme that came up during the last episode when we were talking was inequities and injustice
Yeah.
and things like that. And the thing that was bothering me while I was watching the Oscars and has bothered me like through the whole the Supreme Court nominee thing, like, and I want to make sure I'm not always good at making it super clear exactly what I'm trying to say. So please,
I'll be here to help us unpack.
and then I'm going to say it a different way
Yeah.
and clarify what I mean because I
I'll
want
ask
to make
questions.
sure nobody's misunderstanding
Sure.
what I'm saying. During, you know, it's been a repeated, like, the fact that in 2022,
Yeah.
we have to preface everything or qualify everything with, this is the first time a woman's been nominated twice for Best Director. This is the first time an African-American man, woman, whatever, you know, is nominated for Supreme Court Justice or, you know, leading man or whatever. Like, it's not that, and I keep thinking, I'm tired of hearing that. And it's not because I think that we shouldn't be celebrating that people
milestones.
are getting things.
Yeah.
I don't understand how we're in 2022.
And it's not normative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's not just
Right.
like, hey, Bob got an award. We
Yeah.
have to have all these qualifications around things. And it's not, this isn't 1860
Right.
or 1960. It's,
Right.
you know, I don't
2022.
understand. Yes, normative's a good word for it. Like, I don't understand why it's not just the norm
Right.
that a woman does this, or someone of this skin color does this, or someone of this nationality. You know, last night it was, you know, a Latina, whatever, you know, like, why does everything, why? And maybe it's just my Pollyanna, I live life kind of on the sunshine and roses, you know, everybody, you know, I just love everybody kind of thing.
Right.
And I don't want it to be like, you know, back in the day it was always, you know, I'm not racist, I have black friends, or, you know, that kind of thing. Like, that's not what I mean.
Yeah.
It's just that,
Oh, excuse me, friends.
is that the little train or whatever from the Land of Make Believe on Mr. Rogers?
I don't know. It's just an alarm. I said it because I wanted to make sure that we like didn't get interrupted. And look, I've interrupted us. So I apologize. I apologize. I apologize. No, I really
We're
like
working on English for both of us.
Yeah. I really like this conversation. And so I want to ask a question. And this is when I really wish we had like a little group, right? Like,
yeah, where we could get some
Could
feedback.
you all talk back, please?
Yeah.
So I
Leave
do
us
hope
some
you'll
comments.
comment. Yeah, please. Because I think this is just such an important topic. And I know when we really were tackling, gosh, I want to be careful too, because I don't want what I say to sound unintentionally closed-minded. I'm certainly mindful of the areas of my life and my thought life and my cultural awareness where I am ignorant. I'm very mindful of that, at least where I can be mindful, right? So, because if sometimes you don't know what you don't know. Yeah.
And I'm not trying to oversimplify things by any stretch.
No, I don't. I totally agree with you. So I love that. Like, yes, we want to name the victories, but why is it not normative? Like,
right.
I mean, the fact that we have to name it says it's not been normative, and
Exactly.
it still isn't,
and
right?
it makes me mad.
Right.
It's not normal.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
But when things were really escalating, summer 2020, right? I guess it was spring 2020. It started when the world was on fire, part one. I realize it's not part one. The world's been on fire for a long time, but it was just this uprising of our mindfulness that this wasn't normative, that we had this inherent racism, that we possessed this white privilege, that, like, you know, we were the Black Lives Matter movement, all of that. Like, when there was that uprising, I don't have a better word, I pray that's not offensive, because it really was. It was like this groundswell of, hey, whoa, like,
the world was literally on fire.
Yeah, we're missing the boat on this. Yeah. And as we explore those conversations, like, I think that I became mindful because I don't want to Pollyanna it either. And I don't want in my white privilege to go, but I don't see color, right? Because I understand now that is not helpful, that is harmful, because you want to be seen, you want to be known, you want not only who you are, but where you come from, who you come from, to be celebrated. But I do think I pray that some of this is reflective of my faith, and that other aspects are reflective of my vocation, but that I am a children of God mindset person, right? Like, I mean, Jesus was not white. Like, I am very clear about that. And so really, I just, like, we are all children of God, right? And that's an exercise that I have tried to, what's the word I'm looking for? Apply to my life, which is, like, to view all of God's children as children of God, even the ones that are hard to love. So anyway, as this uprising occurred, I became mindful of my own blindness, and that that for me, the blindness was born out of, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm spitting on you, born out of a desire for it to be normative, right? That there would be equality, that there should be justice. So it is a tough dance of wanting it to be normative, but wanting to celebrate the victory that we're moving in that direction, but also, like, oh, why aren't we there yet?
Yeah.
So I guess, you know, because we are white women, that feels like the space that we can speak to today. And I really would love to hear from others, specifically any people of color who want to weigh in on what your experience of that is, and maybe using the Oscars as an example of hearing those declarations, those victories of, hey, this is the second time, this is the first time, whatever. How does that feel to hear that? Do you also become frustrated that it's not normative, or are you like, yes, like, you're right, it is, right? Like, which is it, or is it a both and? I think that would be really helpful to hear.
Yeah, because I'm all for this, you know, I want to celebrate it, and I'm all for celebrating people's differences, because we're not all the same. You and I aren't even the same, even though we keep finding things that are the same. But I just, you know, when all the stuff was happening in 2020 as well, you know, I had the same thoughts then, like, what is happening? Like, and you know, it's not the world. I don't want to say it's not the world we live in, because clearly it is, but it's not our experience. Right. But, you know, I met a guy at the dog park the other day who, there was a guy and a girl. They weren't together, but they've met at the dog park, and they had been there, you know, they both had moved here recently. And he said he lives down near Great Falls in a little house, not in one of the big houses, and said,
I love the clarifier.
it's not a big house like the rest of the neighborhood, but he feels like he can go outside and not have to carry a gun.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, well, that's pretty horrifying.
Yeah.
You know, like to not feel safe in your own neighborhood and stuff. And I recognize that is the case in a lot of areas and stuff. But it made me sad, you know, and just, you know, I just, like I said, listening to award shows and news and stuff, it just to me is like, I don't understand how we're not making more progress.
I love that your face expresses exactly what you're feeling. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, that's why we're videotaping instead of just doing instead of doing an audio
correct,
podcast,
because you need to see our faces.
We talked about doing this an audio thing so that we wouldn't have to make sure that we looked halfway presentable. But then the faces, we both make the craziest faces sometimes, so we figured that would be easier to convey what we're doing.
You're welcome.
Sometimes I can't get words out, but my face says it all. I don't know.
Like that moment, I don't understand. And yet, like I think what has come out of that uprising that is so beautiful is the way that we are modeling that inclusion, the way that we're kind of stepping up the normative game, right? So I co-founded. I'm trying to make sure that I can like safely say this. I co-founded a princess party company, and I am so proud to be a part of the genesis of that company. Now because of my work, it is not a space where I can give a lot of my time, but I do help out as needed, and I'm certainly very close with the two women I founded it with, and one operates primarily, and the other two women are Latina women. And so to see now, even within that company, persons of color represented in our princesses, like I think that's really important, and something when we opened it 3 years ago, like we were attending to Disney's representation first, and you know, thankfully Disney opened up their diversification, and you know, all of that just kind of got those wheels turning. And so I love that we are all being more mindful of ways to be inclusive and normalizing the fact that we are all children of God. So I celebrate that for sure. And I think that that's something beautiful that's come out of our mindfulness, that we are not as far along as we should be. But I want to speak to the women piece for a moment, because I do think largely we have women who are hanging out with us on here, and we happen to both be women.
We do.
And I wonder, like, as a woman, right? So we spoke to the piece that we don't understand as intimately, which is being a person of color, celebrating these milestones, the recognition and whatnot. But as a woman, hearing like first female vice president, I mean, that was a pretty big deal. When we hear about women in high positions of power, women who are making strides in spaces where men previously have led, how does that feel for you? Women, how does that feel for you? And is that something that you find helpful to be recognized? Or is it like, yeah, and like, why haven't we been here already?
Yeah, and why are, you know, countries that we as Americans might look down on or see as lesser or whatever, you know, not as advanced countries, right? They've had female presidents and leaders for 50 years or more.
Wow, yeah.
Like, and here we are like, whoa, look, we have a female candidate, and now, we actually have a female vice president now, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, why do we have to celebrate that when other countries have been doing it for a long time, you know? And they're not figureheads, they're real leaders, you know?
Absolutely.
Kind of like we talked about with some of the Bible characters and stuff that, you know, and I guess that was in the Queenology group that we talked about. You know, you've got the women shouldn't talk in church camp, and then you've got the Bible that's
from the Hebrew Bible, when it was the most patriarchal. We've got women judges, we've got a female prophet, we've got, you know, the ways in which women were like seeing God's plan, or we're facilitating the unfolding of God's plan. You know, a stinking prostitute who like housed spies to further God's mission. Anyway, yeah.
And here we are thousands of years later.
Beating our heads against the same wall. So yeah, like when I think about it personally, it is so frustrating that I love making a big deal out of it because it is a victory, but it's so frustrating that we have to make a big deal out of it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely worth celebrating, and it's progress.
Yeah.
But it just seems so odd to me that.
Mm-hmm. What do you think? What do we think hinders that? This feels like, whoa, that feels like dangerous territory.
Yeah.
But because perhaps it is patriarchy, perhaps it, or is it just blind?
I
like,
don't feel beat down. And
I don't either. I
oppressed
certainly
or anything.
I have experienced, especially as a female pastor.
As a female pastor, oh my goodness.
There are people in the camp who have had things to say. Also, it's really interesting. I could probably talk another time just for your amusement about things that people say to female pastors. And I've got clergy colleagues who would also weigh in. And I mean, the things that people comment, I have not experienced that at Oakton. Oakton is like the most special church on the planet.
Which is fascinating to me, given the age
Correct.
range of people
Yeah.
here.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But I have certainly been on the receiving end of both stories and also my own personal experiences of comments made about like how you wear your hair, your dress, like your legs. I mean, all sorts of things. Yeah. All sorts of things. Some that would blow your mind. Anyway.
That you'd never dream of saying to
a man. Correct.
Yeah.
And the ways in which female clergy have to be more mindful about what they wear and what they say. I mean, it just is interesting. And it is not specific to just female clergy, but all of that to say, I have had some very interesting experiences, and especially from the camp that believes that women shouldn't be pastors, and that's fine. I wasn't sure either, honestly, because I grew up in a church where I didn't see that modeled. And so when I was discerning a call, I was like, I don't get it. But I had women pastors in my life who had paved the way, who I was calling. I was like, help me understand. Like, how do I negotiate this? So anyway, and yet I have also found a community of men who are absolutely in my corner. Like, I have one ministry colleague who, whenever we did anything, would say, hey, you do this because they need to see a woman do it. Hey, you do that because they need to see, like, just having these male advocates who are like, you are just as capable, if not more so. And like, now let's put you here. Now let's make sure that you have an equal share. Now let's make sure whatever. So I don't know. I don't remember where I started with that, but that's what I have to say.
That's the whole random access part, right?
Yeah, and then it just runs out. Brain power or breath, or either one. But I think the point was, like, the question was, how do we get there? And
right.
And perhaps it's just an absence of advocates. It's people not being concerned enough about normalizing diversity.
Right. And sort of where we ended the last episode and started this one, with just not being willing to stand up and
speak up.
Say anything.
Like, oh, well.
Because if you say something, especially when the women say it,
right,
then you're just the B word.
Yeah.
And aggressive instead of,
right, of course.
You're not
you
a go-getter.
Said the B word. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
You're not a go-getter.
Yeah.
Like the guys are. You're
right.
Aggressive.
Right. Hateful. That takes it back to last conversation. What if it had been Jada who got up and punched Chris Rock in the face?
And, it turns into pay-per-view then.
Hey.
And I'm in. No,
I'm in. And we'll be hosting a party with a cover charge.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, I think that's a good food for thought to leave on.
That is interesting.
Yeah. Well, what would that have looked like if it had been Jada? Think on that. We'd love to hear your comments. We'll be back soon with more random access.
Have a great day.